Well, let's find out what really happened today. Michael Kroger and Stephen Conroy join me now to discuss, I guess it's been a sitting week, the Senate, if that counts. I shouldn't disrespect you like that, former Senator Stephen Conroy. Michael Kroger, why don't we go off what we've just heard there to do with the economy? I guess it's not quite faltering yet, but gee, it's really spluttering, isn't it? What's the government going to do from now? Still just wait until maybe MyEFO, the next budget?
Yeah, I think so. Look, the government's set on a course. Obviously, these are 1 month's figures. You never, as we know, Tom, I'm restating what we've said a million times, but if you'd never take 1 month or even 2 months. You want to go 6, 9, 12 months to get an accurate trend of what's happening. And so this is 1 month's figures. The last few months have been good, but obviously there are issues in relation to a slowing economy worldwide. This is a worldwide trend. That there are issues. So interest rates have been cut, inflation's very low worldwide. So the Australian economy's done very well, and these low unemployment rates, relative to other OECD countries have actually, the government's been very successful on this.
Well, if you look at the long-term trend, Stephen Conroy, the jobs one, the creation one, is very good for the coalition, even though wages perhaps not so much.
No, I mean, I think yesterday's wages figures, coupled with today's unemployment figures, demonstrate that the government actually doesn't have a plan. It can keep reheating, as Jim Chalmers said, old policies to try and pretend it's got an economic policy. And it can announce as many trade agreements as it wants. The macro effect of them is over a 10-year period, whereas they've continually tried to announce a bunch of trade agreements. Now it's a bunch of investment projects that won't be able to get going, not without enormous overturning of existing legislation. Now, whether that's a good or bad thing, we can have a different debate. But none of the measures that the government and Josh Frydenberg are putting forward address the fundamental weakness in the economy, and that is consumer spending, which comes off wage growth. And the government have been deluding themselves in their forecasts. And even the Reserve Bank yesterday finally said, enough is enough. Wage growth is not going to come back no matter how many times we've said it, meaning really the government have claimed it, until 2022, 23. And this is a very bad sign. And even though Michael is going to jump up and down in a moment when I say this, Daniel Andrews is propping up the federal government, because Daniel Andrews has got growth going in wages in the public sector in Victoria. Michael will now complain about that and say it's a bad thing, but if it wasn't for them, we'd almost have negative wage growth. I mean, Michael has actually got to pull his head in and understand that if you keep slamming down on wage growth, you are going to stall the economy. This has been a consistent story for the last 18 months, and the government is getting away with pretending they've got an economic plan.
I'll give Michael a chance to respond to that, because you've got a couple of mentions.
Where do you start? Well, Daniel Andrews is funding much of what's happening here in Victoria through massive increases in public debt. And this is all going to end very badly in Victoria, like it did under Kane Kerner. Andrews will leave office in due course with a massive debt behind him. And, is it heroic to increase public sector wages beyond those in the private sector? Well, we've seen the last 12 months wages growth at 1.9, somewhere around there. Public sector wages growth 2.2 and private sector wage growth at 1.7. Is that good? No. It probably should be the other way around. You'd want the productive sector, who are employing 80 to 82% of people, to have higher wage growth than the public sector. But that's not what's happening in Victoria. You don't get gold medals, quite frankly, for paying public servants more with debt. So, maybe Stephen should start to understand that. I mean, he and his colleagues have never been particularly good at economics. As we know, we're still running in those Wayne Swan surpluses. But anyway, you'll find that the Andrews government, in due course, people look back and say that was a public finance disaster.